Bottoms up. So, I did an unboxing video. My book's here, Rage Monster, and this is a this is a separate video, a sort of presentation, a summary. This is the book that almost killed me. Right? I'm gonna have to drop a backstory. This book almost killed me. It took about 8 years of hard work. It was a terrible struggle. Listen, writing is torture, okay? But in between that torture, you're gonna have a few glorious moments where everything just flows, where everything just feels right. And with all the troubles, with all the worries, with all the doubts and so on, this book was a joy to write in the end. So what is this book about? Because this is what this video is, a presentation. So Rage Monster. It came from an idea. In most media, you have a protagonist that might have a moment of insanity, right? And I could recall shows like Breaking Bad, Dexter, uh, even House MD, and so on, where the protagonist might have a moment of insanity, right? But what I never liked about these shows is that they're too careful, they're too vanilla, they're too hesitant, meaning that they don't go all the way, right? The protagonist has a moment of insanity where he or she loses his shit, and then he or she quickly, after venting for a bit, recovers his or her sanity, and things move on accordingly. And I was never a fan of that. Never a fan. Hold up. Okay. So I decided uh, to write a story about a person that accepts madness as his natural state. He embraces it, right? Uh, so that is where this book came from, in part, essentially. Hux Moloch, the protagonist of this book, he wakes up one day and he just abandons his life. He is a young man and he is tired and bored of society, of life, of people in general. He has a very dark outlook. But he kept at it. But then one day something happens and he just abandons his life. He goes for the desert where he allegedly wants to die because he has had enough. To him, life is a chore. But he crosses paths with somebody on his way to the desert to commit suicide. And, I'm going to preface this encounter with something. Uh, he finds out a secret that enrages him. So, because he finds out this secret, he is enraged and he goes to the desert. And that is where he meets somebody. And that person, for reasons that I'm not gonna tell right now, taunts him, and the protagonist, Hux Moloch, he murders this man that taunts him. But then we find out that this man that has been murdered has connections to the criminal underbelly of the city that is adjacent to the desert. And then because of this murder, all types of activities start to unravel. We have a manhunt, we have mercenaries, we have assassins, we have all types of things that begin to stir because of this one incident, right? So moves are being made. The criminal underbelly starts making moves, and then, you know, the protagonist, because he is such a deranged individual, postpones his suicide to cause some tomfoolery, to cause some mischief and hijinks. And by the end of this book, by the end of this book, not only is the entire city engulfed in flames, not only are all of the citizens um, degraded to, vicious animals, not only do we have a bloodbath, but it spreads to other cities and so on. But you're gonna have to read this big ass chunk of a book to find out what really happens. So that is a brief summary of this book, which took 8 years to write. The book that almost killed me, but it was worth it in the end. So, if there is one thing that I have excelled at in this book, and this is a slight boast, uh, I think that I have written a pretty strong, unique protagonist. I think he really stands out. Hux Malak. I think that is something. I think that is one of this book's strongest features. That this will be a protagonist that you might enjoy, a protagonist that might haunt your nightmares. That is, I hope that is the case. All the great books, all the great characters, they haunt you, right? They haunt your dreams, they haunt your nightmares, and they even haunt you while you are awake. And I think that I have achieved this with this book. The protagonist, the more I look at it, he is, he has the appearance of a normal person. He doesn't seem to be, um, odd or unusual. But as you read along, you discover more about him. You discover that he has a couple of wounds that have injured him beyond belief. That even you can make the claim that these wounds, these injuries from childhood and then on to adulthood, they might not be that serious. That is a very interesting aspect of this book, that what has happened to the protagonist, he has no real trauma per se. He has nothing that really traumatized him to for him to become this sort of nihilistic maniac, basically. He essentially has absolutely no morality. He is amoral, and he becomes the monster, the range monster. And this book tackles a lot of issues regarding, anger, depression, repressed emotions, and why this character is, or I should say, why he becomes the way he is by the end of the book. What happened to him? And the this answer, the answer to this question is left out in the open. It is up to you to make your decision. Uh, but this character is not a hero. This protagonist does some vile, horrible, horrid, atrocious things. Some of them are deserving, others are not, but he does them anyway, and he does them without apology. Um, he enjoys what he does. He is a fan of entropy. He loves chaos. He loves carnage. He loves massacres. And he, by the end of this book, intentionally produces, a city-wise and then even larger, massacre where every citizen, man, woman, and child, just commit the most brutal, ferocious acts on each other. And he simply loves it because he, by now, has become the monster, right? But I think this is the magic of this character, that even though you cannot forgive his actions, even though he is a beast, an unforgivable beast, and you cannot absolve him of his deeds, you still kind of have some sympathy for him. For some reason, right? For some reason. And I think that is a good writing, where even though this creature is so vile and fiendish, you still feel not sorry for him, but you sympathize, right? Because in essence, with all the gruesome things that happen in this book is essentially a tragedy. Because this is why I love tragedies, because most tragedies can be easily avoided. You know, the little things. If these people might have noticed, if these people cared enough, if they just took him by the hand and just spoke to him, all of this can be avoided. But people are selfish and indifferent and apathetic, and that is usually why tragedies ensue. So this book is a tragedy in essence, right? It has a lot of dark humor. I think I did a pretty good job with the writing. I try to explore each avenue, each side of the story. I try to put myself in everybody's shoes. This book isn't one-sided. It doesn't support, just one opinion. I try to explore every aspect of criminality, of insanity, of why people choose evil. Why do they choose to commit atrocious acts? Why do they love evil so much? And I try to explain and explore this aspect. And one of the answers that I have come across is because they love evil. It's that simple. They weren't forced to do anything. They just love evil, and evil things and evil deeds. And another interesting um, aspect of this protagonist is, you as you read along, there is this illusion that he becomes, at the beginning of this book, the protagonist is hesitant. He is a bit meek, even a bit pathetic. He is an introvert. When he speaks, which happens rarely at first, he speaks in a, I would call it a whisper. And then as you read along, he becomes a bit more um, outgoing, in the sense that he speaks more. He essentially, this book creates the illusion that he progresses slowly to become this rage monster, this inhuman entity, right? And with each horrible thing that he does, a bit more of the monster evolves, right? But that is an illusion. And I don't know if this is a spoiler per se, but I this is a trick that I have done. Actually, what really happens in this book, you realize that the protagonist has always been this deranged, has always been this monster, has always had this rage and wrath inside of him. And with each horrible thing that he does, it's not that he becomes more and more crazy by the insanity of it all. It's that more and more of his inner self begins to blossom and leap out, right? He doesn't progress, right? He doesn't his madness doesn't evolve, right? With each chapter of the book, is that with each atrocious act that he commits, uh, his inner true self blossoms and slowly comes out, right, in full bloom. So he has always been this way, and it is your job to discover and make your decision why this is, right. I've never been a fan, like I said. I never been a fan of these protagonists that have, they have this one moment, this one fugue state where they go mad and maybe they do something crazy, and then sanity is restored and everything is safe again. You don't have to really worry until maybe the next time. And I thought that was a cheap shot, really. So I decided to write a book where the protagonist, from early on in the book, he makes the conscientious decision to accept madness. He accepts to go mad because he values nothing. I mean, he he is a nihilist, whereby he doesn't really value anything. He doesn't value the sanctity of life, convictions, morality, ethics, what have you. Most, even human life, he doesn't value any of these. And again, it is up to you to make your decision why he is the way that he is. But even more than that, I would say that he chooses to be inhuman. He chooses madness. He chooses insanity. He chooses chaos and disorder and the pandemonium, right? Because he is a young guy. He is in his early 20s, but somehow he has concluded that the only way to live is to live beyond the edge of reason, meaning that there is actually no reason, there is actually no control, nobody is in control of anything, and there are only illusions and delusions, right? And he doesn't have a good view of life. He doesn't have a good view of humanity. I think even somewhere in the book he says that mankind is a disease. That is his mindset, right? Um, he is, the way his mind works. It's dark. He loves the darkness, and you know, it is something else to just read and just see more of his darkness, each facet, I think it's fascinating because I think you don't really get such a detailed look at somebody like this who just does all these things that are unforgivable and he just laughs about it, right? And uh, another thing that inspired me to write this book, you know, we've heard it said over and over again that no human being gets up in the morning with the intention to do harm, right? And I completely disagreed with that. I think that there are plenty of people around here that wake up each morning with the intent to do harm, with the premeditation to just cause, unspeakable horror. uh, I think that is absolutely true, and I think people reject this because if they accept it, a lot of delusions would be shattered, right? So he indeed is a person that, at least by the halfway point of this book, he is a person that wakes up with the intent to do harm. And he loves it, he enjoys it, right? He even says multiple times in this book, and I quote, I love doing bad things. They make me happy, and I'm good at it. Something like that, right? I mean, he is not somebody that can be absolved of anything, really. But he makes no apology, okay? In the book, he makes no apology. He doesn't seek redemption. He just does what he does. He laughs about it because he is a completely inhuman, amoral creature, right? And I think I did a good job by writing him this way. What else? What else could I talk about? Um, there's a lot of violence in this book. Nobody is safe. Nobody's safe. Not even the so-called heroes. In this book, everybody, and I mean truly everybody, gets their just desserts one way or another, right? I think realistic writing is should be preferred uh, in comparison to the protagonist or the hero or a group of heroes. You know, bad stuff never really happens to them in any real way. I think that is a bit childish. I think, yeah, they should suffer, right? And in this book, one person in particular, unfortunately, does suffer. She is a good person, a lovely person, but because of her naivete, or I should say, because of her goodness, and because she tries to see the good in others, she inevitably suffers a great deal because of this, which is, of course, yet again another tragedy in of itself. So yeah, in essence, this is the book, but there is much more here, way more stuff that is intriguing, and I think it is a good read. I think it's more than just entertainment. It's more than just something to occupy your time with, because it took 8 years I'm so satisfied with it. I've done uh, over the years. I've done so many edits, so many rewrites, so many cuts, so many additions. Uh, I mean, it's crazy. This book almost killed me yet again because of the struggle. When I began, I was 23. I didn't know anything about anything, and it shows in the beginning how unripe I was. But as you read along, you can clearly tell that my writing evolves and develops. Right now, I'm 31. The book is done, and I think it's a pretty solid piece of work. Yeah. I usually do book reviews and videos on writing advice for aspiring writers. So my advice to young writers is, you know, stick to it. Keep on writing. One day you'll have your book done. I mean, mine took 8 years, but that's because I didn't write every day. I needed weeks of just a recess and vacation because, first of all, I was unexperienced, and secondly, I don't agree with the suggestion that many writers give that you should write every day. No, you should not write every day. I think that is insane, right? So, all you aspiring writers, just keep doing what you do, and eventually you will have your book as well in your hands. And listen, with all the sacrifices and all the doubts and me being skeptical, I had no confidence whatsoever. Whatsoever. Um, I thought, who's gonna read this? Who's gonna publish it? Nobody's gonna buy it. Nobody's gonna read it. What's gonna happen to my future and what have you? Normal fears. But once this book came and I had it in my hands, I was just blown away, overwhelmed. You know, regrets have no place in a writer's arsenal. Basically, just do your work. All you have to do is sit down and write, and eventually you'll have a book. If you can write 2 pages a day, you're Gucci, my guy. You're Gucci, right? You don't have to be prolific. You don't have to be excessively whatever, right? Just do the work at your pace. And, you know, um, this question arises. Where do I get the inspiration? Listen, if you have chosen to be a writer, you already know what you have to write. Okay, you write about what haunts you. I think that writers become writers because they are haunted by what goes around in this world, in this life, and they really don't have anybody to talk to. And they put their first of all, they put their trauma on paper and they explore these avenues, right? So I think writers are people who are haunted and obsessed and possessed by certain things that are inexplicable, right? So this thing with inspiration, listen, in my case, uh, pretty much I knew what I have, what I had to write, but in my case, it was all about getting into the mood to write. And music really helped me along music I think can be a great source of inspiration for you because it can uh, induce the mood to write, especially if you are focusing on a certain scene, on a certain atmosphere, on a mood. Then music or a song in particular can really just stir your creative juices, right? And even in this book, early on an early page, I make a dedication to the Doors because their music has just influenced me in many ways. I had all the albums, all the live performances, and the Doors really just. I mean, early on when I started, I just listened to the Doors continuously while writing. So I make a dedication to them and to all the other musicians whose artistry kept me going, right? And I also make a dedication here to George Carlin, the comedian, the our last philosopher, um, because he really just taught me how to, um, in a way, grow the fuck up, and he taught me how to think for myself. I think that is extremely important to think for yourself, you know, think critically, and have a sense of humor, right? I say if you cannot laugh at yourself, cannot laugh at your struggle, I mean, you know, you're lost basically. I discovered him, I think, right before or just right after he died, and he has been with me ever since. And I thank him for it, and I make a dedication in this book to George Carlin as well, for the education given when it was needed, and for being a fellow fan of entropy, right? So yeah, there is a lot to unpack in this book. There are a lot of horrible things that happen in this book, a lot of violence, a lot of ferocious, vicious, uh, malevolent, malicious, hostile, a lot of animosity, right? I mean, it's called Rage Monster for a reason. We have a lot of characters with all the power in the world. They could do anything to anyone and get away with it, but they're not fulfilled. They are not happy. And then in contrast, we have the protagonist, Hux Moloch, and he just throws away everything, his life, his possessions, his status in society, and he just leaves for the desert. And, things happen. And the antagonists of this book quickly realize that he is somebody they cannot mess with because, he doesn't have anything to lose, he has nothing to gain, he doesn't want anything, and he is also batshit crazy, right? So he is a danger, a threat that they cannot overcome. And he is terrifying because he doesn't want anything other than he likes to watch the world burn and maybe even have something to do with this destruction, right? So he is a very dangerous person. This is a very, very dangerous mindset to have, right? So I would say I would say that he is a natural disaster. He is a natural catastrophe in motion, really. He just wants to not not only watch the world burn, but he wants to light it up himself, right? He is chaos and madness personified, and I haven't really read a book with that kind of character, with that kind of mindset, that goes all the way. You know, in all of these pieces of media that I've mentioned, the protagonists, they just have a short burst, a brief moment of insanity, and they just recover afterwards, and sanity is restored. And I don't agree with that. I think that once you go beyond the edge, you're too far gone, and it will keep on amplifying and increasing until you are destroyed, basically, right? I think that's what happens. I got this book. This book should have come in mid-October, but I got it 2 weeks early, and it was a pleasant surprise. I did not expect it to arrive, and when it did, I was just overwhelmed. And I would like to thank Amazon for it, because what a surprise, man! What a surprise it was. I'm happy. I'm happy. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy. I have the book in my hand. It's a big ass chunk of a book. It's a brick, right? Um, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it is over, because this book was just, it was just murder, murder, because I was completely inexperienced, but I got it done eventually, and wow, what an achievement it is, right? So to all of you aspiring writers, it can be done. It will be done. You will finish your book, and this moment of victory will never be taken from you. If you sell or if you don't, we all would like to make some money, right? But whether we are successful or not, I don't know if anybody's gonna buy this, but I am fulfilled because it is done. It is, the physical copy is here, and nobody can take this away from me, right? So whether you sell or not, you know, I wish you the best. But if you don't, you should not regret your choices of becoming a writer, because you have done something amazing, right? There's no feeling than just holding your book in your hand. And this big boy, this bad boy, is heavy as fuck. Let me tell you, no cap. Nobody can take this away from you, right? What else? You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and probably other sites as well. Uh, I'm gonna leave links, uh, and if you buy it and read it, do a review on it, make a video, and I'm gonna watch it, because you know I put in a lot of hard work, a lot of years of my life, right? And when I when I think about it, just 8 years, right? 8 years. This book almost killed me, and I still can't believe it that it is done. It is so compact. It has so much, and when I think of the possibility that I would have to write it all over again, I don't think I could. I think a lot of the magic would be lost. I don't know how I did it, right? I think it is a unique reading experience, and it is more than entertainment. It has something to say about a lot of things, right? Unlike a lot of books, this one really focuses on the dark or darker aspects of the human psyche. Why do people choose evil? Why do people commit atrocities? Why people are so uh, vicious to one another? Even in civilization today, why do these things happen? This book tackles all of these subjects, and there are some answers here and there, but essentially, my theory is that we have an affinity. Okay, we have a affinity to evil, to darkness. We have a tendency to pick, destruction and malice, because it is, of course, the easier route. It is very easy to destroy something. It's hard to build. It's hard to establish relationships. It is a chore. It is a hassle to be a good person. And this protagonist, Hux Moloch, understands this, and he chooses to be an evildoer, a troublemaker. Essentially, if you want to define him as a person, he is somebody who who flirts with disaster, and I think that makes him unique. He embodies all the negative traits of mankind, where he just says, fuck it, whatever, I don't care, right? So he has absolutely no qualms about all of the travesties that he commits. Absolutely none, right? Because he has lost hope. He has lost hope not only in himself but also in humanity as a whole, right? He does not believe in himself. He does not believe that we have any future. He believes that we are all doomed as a species and that we are on the brink of extinction. And he is somebody, right? He personifies the person that would love to dance on the grave of humanity, really. I mean, he is a fucked up individual, right? And reading about him, it is just, it's something else. It's something else, when you encounter somebody like him. I mean, even I, the author, I don't really understand why he is the way that it is. And I think that that is the quintessential journey of this book, to just sit back after you finished it and just ask the question, why did he do this? Why did he just lose all hope and become this monster? It is fascinating to me, right? Fascinating. you know, um, that's pretty much it. I think I should show you a couple of pages, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of pages Okay, so this is the back cover. Now, something happened in the printing process, and the text is all fucked up. I have to fix this. When this video is out, I think that it will be fixed. So this is the back cover. This is the spine, right? This is the spine. All the art is done by me. This is the front cover. I think it turned out well enough. Right, so let's give a sneak peek inside. Right, this is the first page. This is the second and third. You know, let's get it in here. Cometh a reckoning. Right, and I'm really pleased how this piece of art turned out. Right, I mean, this is essentially the protagonist. He has a demented smile. This clearly shows how far gone he is, right? This is a little snippet at the beginning. Okay. This is the table of contents, right? This is the disclaimer. Here is the dedication to the Doors and to George Carlin, who are great influences and inspirations. And of course, this is where the first chapter begins. And maybe you've noticed, but I had to make a sacrifice. The font size is a bit too small for my taste. It is a 10. It originally was a 12, right? Um, the font size is a bit too small, but I had to make this sacrifice because originally this book was 1,000 pages, and Amazon has a limit of about 800, so I had to reduce the font size, or I couldn't publish it. So yeah, hopefully the readers won't mind this too much. It is readable. Uh, the text is a bit small. That is my only real concern. I hope you won't mind it too much. I think uh, the book is worth it, and I didn't want this book to be split up in two volumes. Um, I just wanted to have one big ass book, and unfortunately, I had to sacrifice the font size. But you know, it is what it is. We all have to make sacrifices, and hopefully, the readers won't mind it too much. So maybe I should just read you some snippets here, right? Okay, so let me read you this. You begin the book with this. After the age of folklore, by eating many little snakes and by writing their names on the ashen wings of dragons, instead of lifting into the air, men turned into the very beasts they fought and despised. So that is how the book begins, and it sets a certain tone. It sort of warns you that, something's gonna happen in here. Right? So now let me pick something here from the first chapter. Okay, so this is a perfect sentence that defines the character, and it is early on. So this is how it sounds. Denying everything, denying everything else, he was happy as never before because he discovered the secret truth of life itself. That the ingenious lied in the insane, and that one should dedicate himself to perfect it or not try at all. And I think that clearly defines who the character is. There are a lot of these, sickening quotes in this book that show how the protagonist has lost absolutely all hope, absolutely all connection with humanity and goodness and hope and all of the positive aspects of just living, because he is essentially also a suicidal maniac. But fate itself maybe won't allow him to end his life, as a sort of prank, basically. And because of this, because he has to keep on living the life that he despises. I mean, he generally absolutely hates living. I think that is why he progressively becomes, or his repressed monstrosity, you know, becomes unleashed upon the world. But that's about it, right? Uh, thanks for watching. This is a great moment for me. This book is finally here. Rage Monster is finally here. Uh, with it has some issues. The main issues being, of course, some of the editing choices. But even though those are, you know, it is the way it is. If you can overlook its few and minor problems, I think this book will prove to be of worth. And I think that once you're done with this book, its story and its protagonist will haunt you for years to come. I think they definitely haunt me, and yet again, those are the best books that you can read. Those that haunt you like ghosts, those that possess you like demons, and try as you might, you cannot exorcise them at all. You know, so thanks for watching, and if you're gonna buy this book and read it, uh, I appreciate it, right? So, see ya.